You're listening to The Science of CX. My name is Steve Pappas. I'm known for my relentless pursuit of all things customer. Across my career, and also in my 6 startups, I've had to learn how to make decisions in business that customers really respond to. Let's spend some time together and help your business soar, grow, and accelerate. Well, welcome everybody to another episode of The Science of CX. I'm your host, Steve Pappas, and today we're going to have a great show for you. We're going to be talking about writing. Now, I know that sounds like it may be something in the stratosphere to think about your writing styles and think about how you write things, but it is one of the most important areas of customer experience because everything affects the customer. And we're going to dig into this with Leslie O'Flahaven, who has graciously agreed to join us today. Thank you, Leslie, for joining our show.
It's my pleasure, Steve. Thanks so much for inviting me.
Oh, no, it's going to be our pleasure because I know we're going to get into some very interesting things here over the next period during this episode to help folks understand a more well-rounded way of thinking about the way they're writing, thinking about their messaging as it appears across the omni-channel. So everyone, let me give you a little bit of Leslie's background so that you understand exactly who we're talking to. So Leslie is the owner of eWrite, the writing training consulting company that she formed back in 1996. Leslie is a plain language practitioner who helps the world's biggest brands write better email, chat, and social media to customers. She's a customer service writing expert who could teach the most stubborn, inexperienced, or word-phobic employees to improve their writing skills so they could do their jobs better. As a result of her work, eWrite clients improve their customer satisfaction ratings, reduce training cycles, improve productivity, and limit legal risk. These are all things that we definitely want to dig into. Leslie's recent projects include helping Marriott launch live chat for their sales IT support team, training Air Canada's customer relations agents to write in the airline's updated brand voice, writing a social media guidebook for Hawaiian Airlines, and teaching the technology operations team for the Abu Dhabi Investment Authority to write in plain language. Since 2015, Leslie's been on ICMI's Top 50 Thought Leaders list. Leslie is a LinkedIn Learning on lynda.com author of 6 writing courses on topics including how to write for social media, technical writing, plain language, and writing live chat and text to customers. She is the author of Clear, Correct, Concise Email, a writing workbook for customer service agents. Well, with a bio and a background like that, Leslie, I think you're going to help us with a lot of the problems that our listeners are facing every single day. It seems like everyone I talk to, content and content writing is one of the things that is first and foremost on their minds, but they don't always know who to turn to. So I'm glad you're here and we get a chance to dig in a little bit more and really understand. Let's start off with, is it really possible to teach phone agents or CSRs to write great emails or be able to chat better or create social media responses to customers?
Yes, I really think it is. I know it is. I know that there are probably some agents who are, giving the people listening to this podcast gray hair, and their emails to customers aren't very friendly, or they're loaded with comma errors or something like that. But most people, most phone agents can be helped to write great email, chat, and social media responses to customers. The more comfortable they are on the phone, the longer the journey is to great writing. And I'm not saying it's easy, but I am saying it's possible. I devoutly believe that in the workplace, good and competent writers are made, not born. Writing is not a knack you're born with, like being able to sing on key. Writing is a skill, and most people, barring some kind of unwillingness or maybe some kind of neurological difference, most people can learn to write competently at the job, including frontline customer service agents.
That's interesting because, I think we all think of ourselves as either good or decent writers or not. Some of us prefer to speak and others prefer to write. And I've never really thought of myself as a good writer. I mean, I write as I speak and I try to write very simply, but I've never really considered myself to be good. So, how do you help people that it's not just a fear or a phobia, it's just they just don't consider themselves to have that part of their personality developed?
Well, you can help them. And believe me, I'm not minimizing how labor intensive it can be. If the person really comes to the task of writing to customers without adequate skills, it's going to be a training challenge. But we meet these training challenges in all kinds of other ways. So we should prepare ourselves to meet them to help our phone agents, maybe who are making that switch, become better writers. We all know phone agents who have golden gifts in talking to customers, and maybe they're not that good at switching between software applications, or maybe they're not that willing to update the case notes, those kinds of things, but they're just beautiful on the phone. Well, if those people are willing, and we provide authentic and frequent training and learning activities, they can become competent writers. They may never be graceful writers. You may never want to take a collection of their emails with you to read on the beach over vacation. I understand, but they can become competent writers. I firmly believe it.
Okay, I'll buy into that. Let's go a little further then. So what are when you're engaging with organizations and you're consulting with some of the biggest brands out there, what are the biggest problems you're seeing out there?
One of the biggest problems I see that really hurts customer experience the most is when the contact center requires agents to rely on scripts or templates or whatever you want to call them for written responses. But those templates are not written in the same brand voice as the marketing materials. So when we think about customer experience as the whole gamut of the experiences a person has as they become a customer, and then after they've become a customer, when they need help, we want the company to sound the same after they purchase in the customer service setting as they did before the person purchased when they were shopping. And when we require frontline customer service agents to rely heavily on templates or scripts that are stale, bureaucratic, legalistic sounding, they do not sound like that fun, gecko that you were shopping with before you bought the insurance. When that happens, customers get angry. They start to get angry, or they start to get skeptical about the quality of the advice they're being given in the customer service setting. And that makes them more resistant to taking the answers, accepting our answers, and accepting our help. So I help companies. One thing I help them do is sound just the same when a person has a problem as you did when you were business flirting with them during the marketing period.
So let me ask you this: would it be safe to say that better writing in the brand's voice will equate to a better trust in the relationship too, from a customer experience perspective?
Yes, indeed. That's an excellent way to express it. Writing in the brand voice throughout the entire customer experience just reasserts to the customer I'm still with the same company. As you and I know, lots of customers suspect when they need customer service that they're talking to someone who is tens of thousands of miles away, who's not the same culture, who doesn't speak the same language as they do as their first language. There's already a little bit of suspicion about the whole customer service experience. We don't want to increase that by sounding like, a barrister with a white wig on when we were really playful, while the voice that we wrote when we were really playful when the customer was in a retail setting or watching an ad on TV or listening to an ad on the radio.
Everything you're saying makes sense. But I have to think that a lot of business people, owners, founders, even C-suite folks, they probably don't necessarily think that they have a problem in this area. So, I imagine a lot of CEOs think that, we don't have an issue. And how do you bring to light or bring to the surface the fact that they do have issues? Do you basically do some mystery shopping and how do you figure it out?
Well, that's a really sharp and beautiful question. Lots of times my clients are telling me we know we have a problem because their customers are saying, thanks a lot for the form letter. You didn't answer my question. Or the customer satisfaction surveys are revealing you don't even know what I'm asking, or that was a really cold response. I agree with what you said, Steve, that sometimes the C-suite doesn't realize they have a problem, but usually the QA lead in the contact center knows it, and the contact center manager knows it. They know it. That customers are coming back. Some of those repeat contacts, whatever channel we're talking about, are happening because the customer feels that the response was unfriendly, it lacked empathy, it lacked awareness of the kind of fun business relationship that was created during the shopping experience. So you're right. If we go too many rungs up the corporate ladder, sometimes folks don't know about this, but if we come down a few rungs to the people who manage the frontline agents, they do know. The tone we're using to communicate with our customers is causing repeat contacts, or it's harming customer satisfaction and rapport.
Well, maybe we dig into that a little bit, because I think this is probably in the domain of a lot of different departments within an organization. I think when HR is recruiting people for the contact center, or your contact center management are even outsourcing and looking to companies that are going to take over some things, I think that's a place where we need to have them inject a writing test of some sort. It seems like L&D in many organizations, while they're trying to teach how to perform the job and what are the tasks to do the interactions or to do the transactions, that's one part. And I know you don't like the term soft skills.
I don't.
But L&D thinks that soft skills are the next part that they have to train. So it seems like this falls under a couple of different domains within an organization. So if we're giving good recommendations to our listeners, we're saying that you start at the beginning. Make sure that when you're recruiting people, you at least find out, at least figure it out. Because a lot of times people say, well, I'm in customer service and I wear a headset because I don't like to write.
Indeed, they do. Mm-hmm.
So let's go back to since we talked about HR and L&D, why the term soft skills is not appropriate in your vocabulary.
Well, I'm going to step off the pedestal or the soapbox here, and I'll just explain quickly. I don't like the term soft skills because it's dismissive. And, things that are soft are not usually considered necessary. And soft is just not an accurate word for the types of skills we're talking about here. And if you asked 10 customer experience experts to define what soft skills are, you'd get a pretty wide range of answers. You'd get possibly 10 different answers. So we're getting nowhere. We're not getting anywhere if we can't define it. So stepping off the soapbox, I'm going to say in my work, I replace the term soft skills with communication skills. That's quite specific. That's quite specific. Now, in some other people's work, when they replace the term soft skills, they might call them negotiation skills or leadership skills. And that's why I don't want to use this bucket term. I want to call in my world, communication skills. And I think you're absolutely right. To make good hires for the contact center or for any role that affects the customer's experience, we need to assess in an authentic way whether a job prospect, an incoming hire, has the job's writing skills, the communication skills to do the job. If they do, wonderful. That's a great day in HR. And if they don't, we can still hire that person, but we would understand that we're accepting this new employee and we will need to do some training, some remediation of the skills they lack.
Well, I think it's safe to say that there's an evolution going on right now in every contact center. The sheer fact that almost all of them have gone to a work from home process actually eliminates all of the crutches that they had at one point, right? They can't turn and say, hey, can you read this for me? Or they could pop their head over the cube, or there's a supervisor walking down the aisles. So a lot of the things that a lot of contact center people used to rely on no longer exist. And because the move to work from home in many cases happened so quickly that backfilling some of these other resources for them hasn't caught up yet. So I think there's an argument to be made that we have to teach our customer service people to be a lot more self-sufficient when they're sitting in their living room or their home office trying to do the entire job, when before they had other things accessible to them. They may still have escalation departments, but they might not have all of the other things. Mm-hmm. So how do we help those people also get the necessary training to be more self-sufficient when the resources aren't always there for them?
Well, it's interesting you say the resources aren't always there. I would argue different resources are always there, but they're different resources. So one thing, we have a knowledge base. And if a knowledge base is a lot like, a chest of drawers, some of those drawers have, single socks in them, and you should have gotten rid of those single socks a long time ago. One of the services my company offers is helping companies rewrite their knowledge base content, their templates, so their agents can give better quality responses. And usually there's a lot of ignored or poorer quality templates that require revision, and they're just sitting in there wasting space and taking up space. Your point's very well taken, though. When we're all in the contact center together and we need to use that dud template, we can turn to our colleague on the right and say, how do you always edit this? Because I have to use it today and it's not very easy to read. But management can improve the quality of stored knowledge. And that's a brilliant way to give the agents the resources they need to write well. Just stop saying it's okay to have nonsense in that knowledge base. Clean up the knowledge base. Every single airline I have ever worked with since 2011 has had a template about flights being canceled permanently because of the volcano in Greenland. We don't need that template anymore. And then when I tell them, take it out, that was 2008 or something. Take that out of your knowledge base. That's not a necessary thing. They say, well, we could have another volcano. And I say, well, the chances that it's the same one are pretty small. So let's take it out, So when agents are working remotely and you want them to write responsive, empathetic and accurate on-brand communications with customers, you have to have a clean knowledge base. So you should have a plan right away. We're going to make sure that knowledge resource is pure and is useful. The other thing is, most agents who are working remotely are connected to their managers and to each other in Slack or in Yammer or something, and they can have that, over the cubicle conversation. They're just having it electronically. So I think that, we want to make sure they have a messaging channel, an internal messaging channel where they can get to each other. And finally, this is a very time inexpensive and very productive way to continue training remote agents so that they can improve their writing skills. And that is have a featured great response of the day or of the week. Just the one. So you're budgeting, you're the manager and you're going to budget, 11 minutes or something. You're going to show them a great response. You're going to talk a little bit about why it's great. You're going to store those great responses somewhere that they can refer to them at any time. So it's a chat transcript. It's the DM conversation. It's an SMS conversation, but you're just showing them good work all the time. This is very productive.
I imagine so. And with that, we're going to take a very short break and a word from our sponsor.
Panviva has 25 years of empowering customer service, and we have deep expertise in how people actually use information, from our roots in learning and performance. We offer accurate, consistent information on demand to every channel. Most relevant knowledge at your people's exact moment of need. Integrated, streamlined internal processes. Systems that deliver memorable and remarkable customer experiences that boost customer retention and loyalty every time. Knowledge that extends across your entire digital landscape. To learn more, visit Panviva at www.panviva.com.
And we're back. So the other thing that I've heard a lot is that we're always switching our brains to write content a little differently depending on the channel that we're on. So as you just alluded to, it could be a chat, it could be a live chat, it could be through email, it could be an actual letter that has to go out because of various regulations in healthcare and in banking, et cetera. Talk to me a little bit about the omni-channel and switching the way you write. I mean, is there a difference in writing for chat versus email versus other things? And what are the differences, and how do you let people know that there are nuances to each so that something is fit for purpose?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. I'm going to take quickly, what are the differences between writing in the different channels? Email is an asynchronous channel. So you receive it, it can sit there for a little while, and you can answer it when you want. The synchronous channels, which, SMS is usually considered a synchronous channel. Text is, live chat definitely is a synchronous channel. And customers' expectations about how quickly we answer social media conversations, it makes it almost a synchronous channel. So we do write differently in the synchronous channels where we're together with the customer writing live than we do in the ones that are asynchronous, like email and postal mail, letters, official letters, if we need to. I always say that from a writing standpoint, writing for live chat, well, this will sound like a country song. If phone and email had a baby, they would call it chat, right? So we have the customer care behaviors we can use on the phone. We can probe. We can match the customer's mood. We can confirm understanding on the phone. We can do all of that in chat. We can't do that very efficiently in email. And if we do it in email, that will make the email conversations much, much, much longer and more frustrating. So I would say there's a set of writing skills for chat, SMS, and social, and the writing skills for email are slightly different. The one writing skill you need most in email that is in dire short supply is analytical reading. Because on these other synchronous channels, you can probe. If the customer says, you gave me, my invoice is wrong in live chat, you can ask them, is the address wrong? is the amount wrong? Is the item we charged you for wrong? If they email in and say, my invoice is wrong, you can't probe in that way. So the skill we need most when we're writing to customers in email is the ability to read analytically. And I describe analytical reading in email, customer service email, is the ability to tell the difference between what the customer said and what they're asking. This is a very high level cognitive skill, but it's desperately needed to write good customer service email because customers write a hot mess of garbage in an email. And it's the agent's job to figure out, okay, he said, this person emailed in and said, we're the worst company in the world. He doesn't know where to get help. His invoice is wrong. What is he asking me? That's analytical reading. What is he in fact asking me? I know what he told me. What is he asking me? And this is, like I said earlier, this is a high level cognitive skill. We think it should be easy, but it isn't. And it's definitely not easy in a production environment. So those are the challenges of writing email. And they're substantially different, I mean, from the challenges of writing chat, social media, and text.
So just to go a little bit further on that, I don't know, I'm sure you've run into it a lot, but I've run into various email responses. I've run into various chat responses, even SMS, even from my own family. And I interpret something incorrectly, and then I get a little negative. It happened with my granddaughter a couple of weeks ago that I commented on a post that she made, and she said, well, Grandpa, I'm going to block you now. I said, but I didn't comment. I was just surprised that you were, she had traveled to Florida with her mom. I said, I was just surprised you went there. I wasn't commenting on anything else. I was just showing surprise that I didn't hear you were leaving. So everything seems to be also subject to interpretation. Mm-hmm. So understanding what they're asking you is very important, but also making sure from a customer's perspective that what you're writing cannot be misconstrued.
Yeah. And in fact, it's almost impossible to write in a way that can never be misconstrued.
Sure.
The phenomena you described are well documented in 30 years worth of PhD thesis. It's very well documented. What you're saying, what you're noticing is that the tone of writing doesn't translate reliably, that the person who writes is highly confident that they're conveying the tone they meant to convey, and that the person who receives the writing is highly confident that they've interpreted the tone correctly, and they're both wrong. It's like, how AAA identifies those most dangerous intersections where all the car crashes happen.
Sure.
Tone in writing is that most dangerous intersection because the sender overestimates how accurately they're conveying the tone. The recipient overestimates how accurately they're interpreting the tone. And most of the time, like 90% of the time, the recipient interprets a negative tone. So it wouldn't be so bad if the recipient said, oh, that's nicer than I thought. But what they always think is, why do you have an attitude? Who do you think you are? Right. Why are you unfriendly? That kind of thing. So there are some things that we can do to anchor the tone a little bit better. There are some things. One in many channels is the use of emojis. And that's why emojis are so popular in social communications, because the emoji almost always carries a feeling only. And it's used to control or to reassert the intended feeling of the words. So if I say, that sounds interesting, and then I put 3 smiley emojis, I mean, really, it sounds interesting. If I say that sounds interesting and I don't put a smiley emoji, I could be sarcastic, right?
Right.
But the other technique we don't want customer service writers to open their tone up to interpretation, because, you're going to love that granddaughter no matter how snarky she is when you post, but we want our our customers to take our answer on the first time, accept it, be happy, and go away. So if they get tangled up in our tone, we won't have first contact resolution. So what we do is we use words that identify the feeling we want to convey. I'm happy you contacted us. I regret that we cannot extend the deadline. We use feeling words that make it clear what we meant.
What we're feeling. Yeah. Because you almost see that sometimes people write for brevity, and that could be misconstrued as attitude, or they didn't even give me enough the time of day. They answered me with 3-word sentences.
Right.
And it could be the fact that the customer service agent was overloaded that day, but understanding that you need to convey the feeling and that you're really trying to help that customer is really important. So it may take you an extra 30 seconds, but take the time.
Indeed. And this comes all the way around to that our first discussion about brand voice, because somewhere in the marketing team, they have gone to great lengths to create a brand voice guide for the company. If your company is of any size and you want to hire an agency, or you want to control how the logo is used and the color palette, you will have a brand guide, and some portion of that guide will talk about how we write, what words we use, what feeling we're trying to convey. I can't tell you how many customer care leaders I've worked with who have never seen the marketing department's brand voice guide. The document exists. It's well maintained. It's reviewed every 6 months. It's on the intranet. The customer care folks just have never even seen it. They don't think it's, part of their collection of guidance documents, but of course it is. And so too should frontline agents see it. And I'll tell you right now, most of those brand voice guides say, our company's brand voice is friendly and authentic. They almost always say that we're sincere, personal, friendly, and authentic. And that certainly argues against some of the worst kinds of customer service writing, such as per your recent request, we regret if any inconvenience has been caused. That is not friendly and personal.
Correct.
So, but we have accepted the notion that we will be a friendly, personal sounding company, but that message has to get all the way down to the people who handle your unhappy customers or your happy ones.
So let's get a little more digital here for a second, because we talked about the customer service agents, but we also probably need to talk about many of our listeners are going down the path of chat bots, and they're either deflecting some calls, or they're using the chat bots to qualify up front or provide 24-hour support. Whatever the reason is, they have to write the conversations for the chat bots too. And how do you start that process to make sure that the chat bot sounds friendly? I know you really need to disclose that it's a bot and it's not a human, but sometimes maybe they seem a little too robotic too. And humans are writing those scripts.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And a lot of those bots draw content straight out of the knowledge base. That's where the content's coming from. And that's why we want that knowledge base hygiene and good content quality there. That is part of the content quality, is whether the content is written in the company's brand voice. So the best practices for chatbots that we have known for several years now is that they will be personified. They will have an identity. They often have a name. They themselves sometimes carry a little bit of their own tone of voice. So if your bot is embodied with a cartoon look, it needn't sound like a Supreme Court justice, right? But it should have a personal tone, which means it should be using pronouns I, we, you, obviously. It should also be consistent visually and in the way it writes with your company's brand voice. So let me try to draw this together across these various channels. When you're telling somebody something commonplace in email, chat, social media, text, or on the bot, such as how to check a delivery date. Let's say you're explaining that. Lots of times that part of the customer communication is almost neutral of voice. It's just plain. But greetings, checking whether I've helped you or you need more help, saying goodbye, all of these parts of customer care conversations in every channel, they're rather saturated in the brand voice. So if your brand voice is irreverent in the marketplace, then your bot may start out by saying howdy. You know, if your brand voice, for example, Brooks Brothers has an almost faux formal brand voice because that's their image, not the faux part, but the formal part. So we wouldn't want Brooks Brothers bot to start out with howdy. And we wouldn't want it to start out saying, how can I help you today? We'd want it to say, how may I help you today? Or greetings, how may I help you today? If the customer says, I need to check when my package is going to be delivered, the next response is just good, neutral business writing. You know, we don't need it to say, rather, you know, I'm rather curious about helping you check your package delivery date. That's too much. But in the parts of the customer conversation that need to create a feeling, those parts should be written in the company's brand voice.
Perfect. Well, I'm looking at the time and we're coming up on time. Leslie, we could go on for another hour on all of these things because the value that you're giving our listeners with all of these tips and hints and ideas and recommendations has been invaluable. So I want to thank you for joining us today, Leslie, and I just can't tell you how thrilled I am that we were able to have you on the show.
I am absolutely delighted to be here. And, you know, being asked interesting questions and then being listened to is a gift. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. All right, everyone. Thank you. And that draws to an end another episode of The Science of CX. I'm Steve Pappas, your host. Until the next time, take care, everyone. You've been listening to The Science of CX. My name is Steve Pappas. I really hope you've enjoyed this episode. And if you have, the highest compliment that you can give us is to subscribe, rate, and review The Science of CX. Thanks, and we'll see you in the next episode.